Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
We begin tonight with breaking news, a fast-moving fire threatening homes in North County. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jade Heinzman in for Maya Trabolsi. The fire started off Lake Garden Drive near the 15 freeway in Fallbrook. CAL FIRE says it quickly spread to about 50 acres. KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne is live near the fire with the latest. Tanya.
Hi, Jade. We're here at the CAL FIRE command station that's been set up at Montserrat Winery in the Fallbrook-Bonsall area for what is being called the Garden Fire. You can see behind me that, the scene looks a lot better than it did when we first arrived here. Some smoke left in the air. You can see some flames on that hillside, but definitely conditions are a lot better than when we first arrived. This fire started around 1 o'clock today and quickly grew from 15 to almost 50 acres. It did have a dangerous rate of spread due to the terrain. This community is very rural, that it has a lot of dry fuel, and of course the winds that we've been experiencing this week did not help the situation. This fire is now 10% contained, but 40 homes are still under mandatory evacuation orders. Here's CAL FIRE Captain Mike Cornett.
We're going to be here for several days. This is an extended attack fire, so it's going to go past the initial day here, the initial burning period, into the next several days, so we can make sure that we're mitigating all the hazards and strengthening our control lines to make sure this fire doesn't grow anymore.
The Red Cross and Animal Support will be here on site to help those homes that are evacuated and those families until they are given those orders to safely return to their homes. The evacuation site that has been set up is at the Riverview Church here in Fallbrook. Live from the Garden Fire, Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Well, tonight we're cooling down to the upper 40s and staying clear. I'll give you a look ahead of what to expect for the weekend.
As Trump and millions of his supporters celebrate an election victory, immigrants' rights advocates are already mobilizing. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis says they are preparing to confront what might be an unprecedented immigration crackdown.
Buenas tardes. ¿Cómo están? ¿Ya tienen mucho rato aquí?
Adriana Jasso is an activist with American Friends Service Committee. It's Thursday, and she's tending to a woman who had broken her ankle falling from the border wall.
¿Tiene mucho dolor? ¿Ya tomó pastillas?
The woman's foot is extremely swollen. Her ankle is covered in black and purple bruises. As Jasso tends to the wounds, she can't help but think about what lies ahead. Another 4 years of Donald Trump in the White House.
I don't think that's an understatement to say that people are feeling very, very concerned and very unsure.
On the campaign trail, Trump outlined a vision for an immigration crackdown that could be unprecedented in U.S. history. Now, he won't take office until January, but immigrant advocates are not waiting to mobilize. Here's Melissa Crow, Director of Litigation for the Center of Gender and Refugee Studies.
There's talk about, ending access to asylum as we know it. There's talk about mass detention, mass roundups, deportations, internment camps.
Crow says she began hearing from people all over the country on Wednesday morning, just hours after Trump declared victory.
The next day, I got a whole slew of emails from colleagues and partner organizations and personal friends, just sending hugs, sending support, expressing solidarity. And I think it's those deep connections that are going to get us through the next 4 years.
A broad coalition of lawyers, activists, Policy wonks and organizers plan to spend the next couple of months coming up with a plan to protect people from some of Trump's harshest immigration policies.
We come together on Zoom. You know, every meeting has 3 different time zones, so people know what time they should log on. And we have looked systematically at a lot of the threats that we suspect are coming.
Their strategy involves filing lawsuits, building out mutual aid networks, and advocating for more protections at the local level. They know full well that Trump and his team are also hard at work.
Para los niños, si gusta.
Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
The next batch of local election results are expected at 6 o'clock tonight as ballots continue to be counted. The San Diego County Registrar of Voters says there are still about 500,000 ballots left, which could take several more days. You can find the latest results on our website, kpbs.org. The California Air Resources Board, or CARB, is considering toughening a policy aimed at slashing greenhouse gas emissions. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen says the policy could come at a cost for drivers.
San Marcos resident Tim Moyna is fueling up his RV for a trip to the desert this weekend. He supports what the California Air Resources Board is doing to lower greenhouse gas emissions.
I just think it has to be done in consideration of what it's going to affect and what that impact is.
He doesn't think requiring oil companies to cut carbon intensity in transportation fuel is the answer.
I think that has to be factored into how's it going to affect the actual vehicles and performance of the equipment, because a lot of equipment is suffering now and has to be maintained much more often than it used to because of the changes in the gas already.
CARB is considering a proposal to increase the state's carbon emission reduction target and also fund charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. Cars account for nearly half of the state's greenhouse gas emissions. If the board approves the changes, that could also mean higher prices at the pumps. Imperial Valley College economist Joe Silverman says while there are several factors that influence fuel prices, this would be one of them.
Will this raise prices? And the answer is yes. I guess the big question is by how much? That's what we don't know.
CARB says the policy could add 37 cents per gallon, but has since walked back on that, saying its model could not predict future fuel prices. The policy has gotten backlash from both environmentalists and the oil industry. Environmentalists say the policy is not doing enough to support the infrastructure for zero-emission vehicles. And the oil industry says CARB hasn't been transparent about how the proposal could increase gas prices. And with the election of Donald Trump, it's not certain that California could implement the policy. The state requires a waiver from the EPA to implement its own air standards.
The Trump administration could be very vindictive, and they could say, look, you guys in California, you're not doing us any favors. And because I don't care about your air, you don't vote for us anyway, we're not going to give you that EPA waiver.
In 2019, Trump revoked California's ability to enforce its own emission standards, which was later restored by Biden. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Well, hearings are underway in a lawsuit challenging one of the first lithium projects in the Imperial Valley. KPBS reporter Corey Suzuki says environmental advocates are concerned about impacts to the region's water and air.
2 environmental justice organizations are suing the county of Imperial over its decision to greenlight the Hell's Kitchen lithium project. That's a geothermal energy plant designed to collect dissolved lithium particles from searing hot brine deep below the valley. The 2 groups suing are Comité Cívico del Valle, a longtime local environmental justice organization, and Earthworks, a national environmental nonprofit. They say county officials didn't look hard enough at the potential environmental and public health impacts of the plant, like the amount of water it's going to be using, and what that could mean for the disappearing Salton Sea. Luis Olmedo is the executive director of Comité Cívico.
That's our goal. Our goal is never to say we don't want you here. Our goal is to say, do it right, make it sustainable, and making sure that you're able to operate in a fair, balanced way in our community.
Olmedo says they support the emerging lithium industry and hope it will continue to develop in Imperial County. But he says the lithium companies need to be proactive and take steps to prevent damage to the air and water before it happens. A spokesperson for the county of Imperial declined to comment. Corey Suzuki, KPBS News.
The San Diego Unified School Board announced the winners of its social media awareness contest today. KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us students are helping to spread the word on the mental health harms of being too online.
There are 7 winners, including Mira Mesa High School 11th grader Kylie Bright.
My PSA, I tried to make something simple to get the message across better. It says, be nice, think twice, remember to engage responsibly on social media, because I think it's important that even though it may not seem like it, what you say online can impact people a lot.
Bright says it's important to spread awareness about the effects of social media to students.
Because I think some students may feel like they're not seen by the adults in their life, like they don't feel like that the adults realize the problems we're facing with social media, but this, I think, will make students feel seen.
8th grader Deja Flournoy is another winner.
I really want to mention that you should always be responsible when posting things and always think before posting things.
And 8th grader Zaira Hidalgo.
On this side, I wanted to show the negative effects of social media and how it can affect you negatively. I put discouraging statements like you're not going to succeed and you're not good enough and you're ugly. And I wanted to consider those as like comments from social media apps. So I put some of the most popular social media apps to showcase like what people can say on those. On this side, I wanted it to be the opposite of this. I wanted them to contrast. So I put encouraging statements like, you're beautiful and I can do it.
But no matter the medium.
The contest is part of the school district's response to the U.S. Surgeon General's call for a warning label on social media platforms. This summer, Dr. Vivek Murthy wrote in an op-ed, the warning should say, quote, social media is associated with significant mental health harms for adolescents.
We see things like anxiety, depression, cyberbullying happening through some of these social media platforms. And we know it's interfering with students' academic achievement, but more importantly, really getting in the way of their wellness.
San Diego Unified School Board President Shayna Hazen says kids can help get the message across to other kids.
They understand what kids are going through. They understand the messages that are going to resonate. And so it's really exciting to see them stepping up and sharing this information in beautiful and impactful ways with students all across our district.
The winning submissions will be shared on social media, the district's weekly newsletter, and its website. Melissa May, KPBS News.
People come together through sports, and in Poway Unified School District, they're also breaking barriers. KPBS health reporter Heidi DeMarco shows us how students are learning from each other on and off the field.
You guys pick a team, Jaden!
We're practicing for a big game that's going to come up on the first day of November. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to be the best, and I am really excited for it.
Haley Granger is a 10th grader at Del Norte High School. She's one of the many students participating in a new unified physical education class.
When I first got here, it was like a little bit rough for me.
Granger says she was struggling to make new friends after moving to San Diego from Canada.
To be honest, these classes, they're really the best. I got to meet new people here, and they seem to really like me very much.
It's called the Unified Champion Schools Program. It was designed by Special Olympics Southern California. Lynn Allen directs their special programs.
So our Special Olympics Unified Champion Schools program is our program that we're doing in all of the schools to promote acceptance, inclusion. It's where we have our athletes with intellectual disabilities or their students, and they're partnered with their peers without intellectual disabilities.
94% of participating schools report a reduction in bullying, teasing, and use of offensive language.
There's a stigma, people don't know how to interact with athletes with autism or, with Down syndrome, and they're kind of just sitting there by themselves.
Studies show children with disabilities are nearly 5 times less likely to participate in physical activity compared to children without disabilities.
And there's always that curiosity factor too, so I think this kind of breaks down those barriers in those students without disabilities. See that they can do everything that the typical students can do.
Ashley Sparks is a senior. She says the class has changed her perspective.
I think it definitely has given me a lot more awareness of there's just so many different people, and there's different ways you can accommodate to certain students, and I think it's been really great to work with them and just get to know everyone's personalities.
The disabilities vary. Some students have aids to help them physically or with processing, but all students are encouraged to support each other on the field. Coach Susan Milanovich says more schools should consider the program.
I've taught adapted PE before, but this is completely different, and it's also both sets of kids, the kids with disabilities and the kids without, they have grown so much just even in this first 8 weeks.
The program started with Poway and Del Norte high schools. The district recently committed to implementing the program across all grade levels, starting with high schools. Program leaders say this approach will build a culture of inclusion from the start.
Defense, Hawks! Defense! Let's go!
At their first official soccer game, students from Del Norte and Poway high schools have their moment in the spotlight. Complete with fans, cheerleaders, and plenty of school spirit.
Come on, Nighthawks! And that's kind of my goal too, is to make them feel like the other kids do when they go to an away game or they host a game here. They deserve to feel that exact same way as our football team or our volleyball team.
For these students, the real win isn't on the scoreboard. It's in the friendships, acceptance, and inclusion they built together today.
Come on, Claire Bear, you gotta run. I believe in you. Didn't thought I had it in me, but hey, here I am. Thanks to thanks to all the teachers and the classmates that do for me, I'm kind of very grateful. I'm glad to call these people my friends.
Heidi DeMarco, KPBS News.
The Coronado Island Film Festival is serving up a culinary cinema series. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando actually has a taste of what's on the menu this year.
Coronado Island Film Festival's culinary cinema series has been pairing food-themed films with appropriate tasting experiences since 2018. It often calls on local chefs like Mario Casaneri of Chicha Osteria.
Food and wine always bring family together, people together, enjoying events. And for example, my logo is angel and devil, one with a glass of wine and the other one with a plate of pasta. Even the two opposite, they go well with the food and wine.
And the documentary Marcella goes well with Casaneri's food. The film offers a portrait of author and chef Marcella Hazan, who's credited with introducing people in the U.S. to traditional Italian cooking.
My wife and I have been cooking from Marcella Hazan's recipes since I can remember. 30 plus years.
Which led filmmaker Peter Miller to making a documentary about Hazan.
What Marcella is about is teaching people at home how to cook. And so how could I not have people cooking when talking about her work?
So this is Marcella's very, very famous tomato sauce. Simple, soulful, perfect.
It's not just a story of a cookbook writer. It's a story of immigration, the story of a disabled woman trying to find her way in a country where she doesn't speak the language, where she's expected to put a meal on the table, even though she'd never cooked.
It's also about sustainable food movements emphasizing local and seasonal ingredients that Casaneri champions.
I like to go to the market every day and find a product which can suit the palates of my customers, and then making something to make them happy.
If we're making movies about the joy and the importance of preparing and eating food, why the heck shouldn't we serve a meal when we're done and continue the conversation over something delicious and nourishing?
That's why you need to add the culinary cinema series to your festival menu. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
As school districts consider stricter rules on cell phones, some students are avoiding social media on their own. KPBS reporter Katie Anastas spoke to one student whose documentary on Lowtech Friendships premieres tonight at the Coronado Island Film Festival.
16-year-old Lilia Spiegel doesn't have social media.
But I'm surrounded, all my friends have
TikTok, Instagram, all the social medias. And I think for me, it's kind of hard sometimes because when we hang out or something, they're all on Instagram or taking like Instagram photos or anything.
When her parents worked for the study abroad program Semester at Sea last fall, she went with them.
I really felt that social media was hindering friendships around me, and I wanted to see if it was different across different countries.
The result was a documentary that includes young people from Spain, Malaysia, South Africa, and Malta. Spiegel's favorite interview is with a young woman in Greece.
People were always on their phones, and there were some friend groups that we would go out for coffee or drinks, and they would be just like, and I noticed it, and I was like, what the heck is going on?
Her advice was to invite friends on walks.
Like you can do a 1 hour walk, you can do a 5 hour walk, you can walk forever.
When Spiegel got back, she turned her camera and microphone toward her Coronado high school classmates. She says one interview in the documentary is with a member of the school's fishing club.
That's an activity without phones, and that's what I've heard with a lot of other people. They really like these activities that kind of force you not to be on your phones.
As school districts consider stricter rules on cell phone use, Spiegel says they need to help students find things to do instead. She says schools could create classes on healthy social media use and more extracurricular options on campus.
In order to get rid of our phones, we need to have something to replace it with.
Her advice for teens considering a break from social media?
Just go on a walk.
Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Well, the Santa Ana winds that we've been dealing with the last couple of days have died down, which means the fire danger has been diminishing throughout the day, and that trend is going to continue as we head into the weekend. So we're not really looking at an increased fire danger. Also, as we look towards the weekend, just a slight cool down on the way, but plenty of sunshine throughout the weekend and to start next week. First, let's talk about tonight, though. Temperature-wise, we are starting out with 37 for your overnight low in Oceanside, 47 in San Diego, 40 over there in Borrego Springs. Tomorrow, plenty of sunshine across the board, and we're seeing temperatures mainly in the 70s, 73 in Oceanside and San Diego, 80 for Ramona, 50s, though, for Mount Laguna. 56 is the high there tomorrow. Taking a look at your 5-day outlook, we're not seeing too many changes here. Now, the one thing I will point out, you're going to see the clouds build a little bit by the time we get to Monday. That's when we could see a few showers throughout the area, but mainly we're dealing with a lot of sunshine. Temperature-wise, we're in the low 70s really across the board here, ultimately warming up to 78 degrees by the time we get to Wednesday. Further inland, we're starting out with 80 degrees for your Saturday, dropping down to 75 by the time we get to Monday, and then warming right back up to 80 for your Wednesday. In the mountains, that's where we're sticking with the 50s for the most part, 56 for your Saturday, ultimately warming up to 60 by the time we get to Wednesday. In the desert, that is where we're really staying consistent, just seeing a couple degrees variation here and there, 77 for your Saturday, up to 81 by the time we get to Monday, and then back down to 79 for your Wednesday. And again, plenty of sunshine here with some clouds moving in and out over the next couple of days. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Anna Azalian.
And we want to update you on the brush fire burning in Fallbrook. It started this afternoon on Lake Garden Drive, west of Interstate 15 and east of Gerd Road. People living in 40 homes are under mandatory evacuation orders. The fire quickly burned around 50 acres. CAL FIRE says crews have been battling on the ground and also with water dropping helicopters, and that has seemed to stop the spread. It is currently 10% contained. Of course, we'll continue to update the latest information on kpbs.org. November is Native American Heritage Month, and this weekend in the Gaslamp Quarter, an exhibit will shed light on the Native American experience through art. KPBS reporter John Carroll takes us inside the gallery where it's happening.
In one of the older buildings in the Gaslamp, artwork that speaks to the experience of the people that have been here the longest.
So I'm a tribal member at the Rincon Band of Luceño Indians.
Ruth Ann Thorne is also the owner of EC Gallery. For the 5th year, the gallery is hosting the Native American Art Show. She is the first and still only Native American business owner in the Gaslamp.
And this land that I'm here in the Gaslamp, this was a territory that was shared between the Pale-Coichin people, the Kumeyaay Nation, and 2 or 3 other tribes that are no longer in existence. So we're actually standing on my ancestors' land.
For this weekend only, this gallery on that land is returning to ancient roots through Native American art, featuring artists like Ruben Chato Hinojosa.
My grandfather was an artist. My father was an artist. It kind of reminds me of who I am. My grandfather told me once, "You'll be living proof that I existed." And look, here we are.
Hinojosa, who is known simply as Artist Chato, is a sculptor as well as a painter. His medium is paint on wood. His style, sweeping, brilliant, rooted in ancestral history.
It's the heartbeat. You know, our culture is the heartbeat, especially for us Apaches. It's like when you hear the drum, it's the heartbeat of who we are.
This art show is certainly special in many ways, and one of the ways it's unique is it's not confined to the four walls of the gallery. Tonight and tomorrow night at 6, when Fifth Avenue is closed, there will be a drum circle right here in the middle of the street. And that's not all.
We will also have a blessing by one of our tribal leaders both evenings, and the bird singers, which come from California, they will also be here blessing with the bird songs.
The art show is free. It runs tonight and tomorrow night from 6 to 9, then on Sunday from noon to 5. A time during Native American Heritage Month to travel through the portal of art and gain a new perspective on the culture, the wisdom, the experience of the people who've been here the longest. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Jade Hindman. Have a great evening, everyone.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.